Can you hear me now? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Cherie Barrows, Vice President of Sports Partnerships for the American Cancer Society, and I am thrilled to introduce this esteemed panel: Nicole Whiteman, CEO of the LA Dodgers Foundation; Christian Rodarty, Managing Director and founder of Commonwealth; and we have Nathan Schlater, Director of Corporate Partnerships for LAFC. How about a round of applause for our panelists? And we're here to talk about empowering sports through community tech, fandom, and impact. So I want to get our panel started by just cueing a PSA that you'll see if you're watching NFL broadcast, started airing last week.
On game day, you see our strength, but we see yours too. We see the strength it takes to get screened, facing your fears while still having hope. Knowing that even with great strength, there are some battles best fought with people by your side. Getting screened is the first step.
So I wanted to set the tone for the conversation by just showing an example of one of our partnerships that we're incredibly proud and humbled to be a part of with the NFL, the Crucial Catch Partnership. And this is Crucial Catch Month across the NFL, which started out as a breast cancer awareness campaign and has now expanded to all cancers. And you'll notice, again, some of the things we're going to talk about is tech and how you insert that into your impact campaigns. And that QR code in the broadcast is something that is new that we've introduced to our PSA this year. So I'd be remiss, again, representing the American Cancer Society, if I did not thank Dr. Betty and Coach Val for sharing your cancer connection. You are the reason we do what we do. And so I just want to thank you for sharing that story. Incredibly inspiring. So Nicole, we'd love to start with you and just really set the foundation for the discussion. How does the LA Dodgers, obviously, legacy, approach impact, and why is it important to the organization?
Yeah, thank you, Cherie. Hi, everyone. Nicole Whiteman, as mentioned, CEO of the Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here with these esteemed panelists. The Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation, our mission is around tackling some of LA's most pressing problems. And for us, that's homelessness, education, healthcare, and social justice. And so our work is truly about creating a Los Angeles where every Angelino has the opportunity to thrive. We both run and fund programs that get at leveling the playing field for youth and families who are in marginalized communities, who are in underserved communities, and we figure out ways to get the Dodger fan base involved in that work. It's really about making sure that we are the pillar within the organization that uses the Dodger brand and all of the strength and the skills that come with such a unique legacy brand to be able to open doors and provide access to so many of the communities that need it so that we can look towards increased confidence and possibilities for the future and strengthen communities throughout Los Angeles.
Incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And Christian, from your perspective, would love to hear a little bit more about Commonwealth and why you founded the organization and how you approach impact.
So I'm a proud Bruin and native Angelino, now living in Miami. So it's nice to be back in the hometown. But I'm Jesuit educated. I went to Loyola High School of Los Angeles, and our premise is for the greater good of society. And so I founded this agency because, for me, we're humanitarians at heart, and we leverage our creativity in everything that we do through purpose, people, and connection. For me, social impact, social responsibility, corporate citizenship, they're all synonymous, but at the end of the day, it's about leaving a legacy of impact in the communities that we work in and that we serve.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And Nathan, with LAFC, we are very proud to have you as a new partner of the American Cancer Society. I want to thank the organization for your support. How does LAFC approach impact, and why is it a priority to the organization?
Yeah, and first off, thanks again for having me. Really honored and flattered to represent LAFC. A lot of our team is traveling right now to Austin as LAFC takes on Austin FC tomorrow and continue our battle for a top seed in the playoffs. So super exciting time for the club and very excited for partnerships like yourself. But overall, LAFC's main purpose and our main mantra is to unite the world city through the world's game. And that's very powerful for us because there's no doubt that soccer or football is the universal sport of our planet, and LA is a world city. But how we continue that mission has to be with the community. and community first. And I think if you asked our ownership what a big goal would be, is that LAFC is seen the most in the community. And not just to do a community impact program or do it from a sponsorship perspective, which my role is, but how can we spark a movement? And we have such a large fan base already since kicking our first ball in 2018, but a very passionate fan base. So how can we develop that why on making a difference in our community and unite the World City through the World's game?
Love it. Thank you. I also want to shout out Genesco Sports Enterprises, our agency, and we have Aaron here from Genesco, who was a huge part of establishing that partnership with you all. So we know, again, I'm biased, obviously, about our cause at the American Cancer Society and how important it is to work and partner with sports leagues and teams in the fight against cancer. But we know you all have a myriad of causes, worthy causes to choose from. So I want to talk about platforms and how you go about really choosing your platforms of focus for the organization. And we'll start with you, Nicole.
Yeah. As I mentioned, ours is really around what we deem to be LA's most pressing problems. And so when we think about 1 in 4 Angelenos not knowing where their next meal is coming from, when we think about less than 50% of LAUSD students being able to qualify for math and English at the standards that they should be, when we ultimately think about the fact that, you know, youth and families who have incomes below $40,000 a year cannot participate in sport, we have need statements. And unfortunately, LA has some very dire statistics that we're basically trying to tackle, that we're addressing. So our focus areas are really in tune with that, but also through a social justice lens. Our theory is that at the end of the day, there are people that are living in Los Angeles who are in the shadows of Dodger Stadium, who are not folks who come to Dodger Stadium on a regular basis, but they are our neighbors, they are Dodger fans. It's our responsibility to show up for them. And so we chose our focus areas based on need, but we also then chose our activities based on need. And so when we think about that, we are doing community infrastructure. So we're ensuring that communities have basic essentials, that they have safe places to play through programs like our Dodgers Dream Fields program, where we're building baseball fields and softball fields in underserved community, and to date have 60. We're also doing sports-based youth development, and so a lot of people don't understand that beyond just hitting a baseball and hitting a softball, the many social emotional attributes that a young child can gain from sport is so important. And so we have a Dodgers Dream Team program that allows 12,000 young boys and girls throughout LA and Long Beach at 80 different locations to participate in sport, but to also get wraparound resources in education and in health, but also basic essentials, because we want to ensure that we've taken care of them and their families beyond the field. In addition to that, we consider ourselves knowledge sharing and convening as an entity. The ultimate thing is, at the end of the day, we do this equity-focused grant making where we're supporting about 250 nonprofits throughout Los Angeles over the last 10 years.
Incredible.
But those organizations, frankly, get dollars from us, but it's more than the check that they need. They need this Dodgers brand to help market themselves. They need this Dodger brand to help give them a platform to amplify their mission, to amplify their voices and the people that they serve. They need our stadium. They need to be able to convene in spaces that are exciting and attractive and that engage additional donors and funders and supporters for them as well. So it's a number of things, leadership capacity and building. And so we have a college and career accelerator. We have a science of baseball curriculum. We do a lot of things, but all under those focus areas, because those are the needs that we deem most important, and then we have tracking and evaluation for all of that.
So a masterclass in sports and impact. I don't want to underscore that, but really, really incredible. And a couple of things you focused on there is first starting with your community and starting with the needs of the community, and then really looking at the data and what those needs are. And then sport as a foundation, right, for uplifting that community in other ways. Christian, if you could share, you know, some of the platforms that you focus on and your partnerships that you're really leading across both athletes and sports teams.
So I'm really lucky in the work that I get to do, because I work across different industries. And one of the companies or organizations that we get to work with is the Miami Heat. And I'll start off by saying that Reverend Senator Raphael Warnock said, if you want to serve your community, you've got to spend time in the community.
Our Georgia senator, I'm from Atlanta, so I have to throw that out there.
And the Miami Heat is, while it's an iconic brand, they spend so much time in the community trying to address the many needs. So if you caught earlier when I said that I live in Miami, you know that that is in the state of Florida. And I won't go on a rant about that. That's a topic for another day. But what we're doing as part of the Heat is we're taking issues that many folks often overlook, and we're bringing them center stage. So for us, we know 2024 is going to be an election year, and we're treating voting at our arena, at our home team, as a social justice cause. And we are trying to line up to ensure that the youth have a vote. No matter what party you're aligned with and who you're going to vote for, exercise your right to vote, and that's getting them registered first. One of the other things that we're doing too in South Florida, specifically South Florida, there's a region called Homestead, and in Homestead is where most of our agricultural farms exist. And the stories that you hear coming out of this particular area, where families are often displaced because they have to go chasing the harvest. This past year, we did a documentary on their plight and how a simple fruit crop, dragon fruit, for example, it's a year-round fruit that is cultivated all year in Florida and helps families stay together. So we centered a whole doc around them to ensure that folks hear about what they go through.
Right? It's actually a business imperative. And we talk about fans and community and why it's important for the community to understand that the teams and the leagues care about them and not just they're coming to the game and they're buying a ticket or watching a broadcast. So for you, with a sponsorship perspective, can you take us through again why that's important from a business perspective and why for your sponsors it's important, like a Toyota, to be a part of those impact campaigns?
Yeah, absolutely. It's good for business. And a fun statistic is one of our bumper stickers, so to say, with LAFC is depth over width. And we did a survey with our fans and said, hey, LAFC fans, if you can only support one team in LA, and we all know the amazing teams that are in LA, right. 72% of them said they would exclusively support LAFC. So we have this emotionally connected fan base, and that's all because it's a representation of LA and a representation for who they are. So anytime we have a partnership conversation, it cannot just be viewed as an advertisement, an LED signage. There has to be a why component of what we're going to do in the community and be a force for good. And that's what our fans want to see, and that's what they want to be affiliated with. So very
Love
important.
that. Thank you. And Nicole, I want to go to you because I know the Dodgers would, beg to differ in terms of favorite LA team. But for the Dodgers, again, rich legacy. Obviously, we're here at UCLA with, Jackie Robinson and some of the others, that have worn the Dodgers uniform. How is it really from a business perspective, the work that you do in the foundation and how you work together with the organization?
Yeah, so first I'm going to say I know 72% of them said LAFC. We are partners in this space. We share ownership, and so that's all good.
This
that's
is true.
All good.
Exactly.
I swore you were going to say Dodgers, though, but I get it.
We're very close.
I think brand equity is so very important, and a huge part of a sports team's brand equity is how they show up for the community. There are so many various ways to measure that, and there's so many conversations you can have. But undoubtedly in our work, we are very insistent that we are creating the next generation of Dodger fans. Whether or not we believe it directly, indirectly, or we're going into that every single day into community work with that in mind, it's inherently happening. Ultimately, we like to say that on the Dodgers Foundation side, it's not my responsibility to put butts in seats at Dodger Stadium, but it happens because we are bringing groups to Dodger Stadium who ultimately would probably have never come or who didn't feel welcome or otherwise because of the community efforts that we're doing, and frankly also because of the social justice lens with which we do those efforts. And so from our perspective, and thankfully from our ownership's perspective and the senior leadership on the Dodgers side, we believe that the foundation has created our own sort of brand over this last 10 years, having given out $53 million in investments to various nonprofits throughout Los Angeles and impacting 9.8 million youth.
How about a round of applause for that? 53 million.
Thank you. We have to believe that of those 9.8 million youth, we have converted and translated families into making them feel that they belong somewhere. Sports is supposed to make people feel as though they belong. And so when we think about that, I think it increases our brand equity 20 times over. As a franchise, the broader team has created several heritage nights and other ways to welcome in groups just based on a lot of diverse ethnic backgrounds, how you identify community, UCLA night, all of these various things that help people figure out where they belong. And the foundation plays into those as we think about the work that we're doing in the neighborhoods as well. So I think we're just being very intentional about it and realize that it is a significant part of our brand equity.
I love that. And Christian, from your perspective?
So I'll go a little bit more macro on
please.
it in some of our other clients, but doing good is not only the right thing to do, but it's also good business.
That's right.
And more from the sports side, with our sports clients, we're seeing more and more sponsors want to earmark dollars specifically for CSR initiatives. On the non-sports side, all of the work that we do really is how can we leverage our humanitarian side to drive impact. So I think of clients like Verizon, right, through their innovative lab programs or innovative learning school programs, right? We're partners with LA84 and the Play Equity Fund. Everything that we do channels into creating some type of impact, whether it's creating a pipeline of next generation engineers with the Heat, if it's not everyone's destined to play in the NBA. So, but if you want to be in sports, you can be a marketer, right? You can be an analyst, you can be a researcher, you can be a broadcaster. So showing youth and showing the next generation the multitude of opportunities that are out there outside of just specific to being on the court.
Thank you for that. So I want to get into how tech really plays a role, right? I mean, we're talking about activation and, we go from having selected the platform and all of the great business reasons that we've given for, why impact is important to really how we translate that into action, right, and activation. From the American Cancer Society standpoint, again, referencing the PSA we showed, our goal with Crucial Catch in the NFL when we sit down with them from a partnership lens and we look at the impact we're looking to see, Crucial Catch is about catching cancer early. And so how can we inspire action during this month and not just the message, but really getting fans to reduce their cancer risk or take steps toward, getting screened. So we introduced a QR code to the PSA this year and just a little bit of early data to share from that perspective. Last year, we had a tool called the Defender that's designed for fans to go online and reduce their cancer risk and then find out where their local screening center is. We had about 11,000 fans over the course of last year during the month of October who actually went and assessed and found screening information. By introducing the QR code, we're 1 week into the campaign, we have over 55,000 who have gone and actually taken the tool and assessed to reduce their risk. So it's utilizing technology in that way to help inspire more actionable impact through the work that we do. And I'd love to hear from your perspective, whether it's social media, whether it's mobile applications, QR codes, some of those things that you're looking at and testing as you go about activating on impact. And we'll start with you, Nathan, down on the end.
And if you don't mind, I want to make a side note just from the last topic. One thing that I'm personally excited being affiliated with LAFC is, of course, sports is naturally competitive, but everyone is pulling the rope in the same direction in the community.
Absolutely.
Like you mentioned, Dodgers shared ownership. Angel City was just up here. Pulling the rope in the same direction and using the power of sports is really incredible. And I'm really proud to say LAFC lives and breathes that. But to your second point about technology and fan impact, this is a good opportunity to bring up something that we just launched. Jamie, who's also here, is helping with this initiative on our LAFC team, and it's called LAFC Gold. And it's an all-new membership program that we just launched. And when you think from a business of sports, we have our season ticket members, we have our followers on social media, but how else can you showcase your fandom? How can you be a fan in Brazil of LAFC or Mexico and still feel affiliated with the club? So we launched LAFC Gold, where you can have a free membership. You can also have a global membership and pay and get really cool benefits. You can have a youth membership. So if you're a young fan and say, hey, I can't buy season tickets, but I want to feel like I'm part of LAFC, you can be a youth member of LAFC and receive really cool money can't buy experiences as chances to meet our players, get on the field for warm-ups, you name it. So this is 3 or 4 weeks old now, and we look forward to expanding that. And this is technology all driven by our partners Dropped and Near Protocol, which uses somewhat of blockchain technology to help authenticate that. I won't go down that route. I know it's very complicated. But overall, LAFC Gold is a really cool tool when we're sold out of season tickets, but anybody and everybody can be affiliated with LAFC, and we're really excited to see that engagement grow.
And such a great example, again, we've referenced a few times of building the next generation of fan and using technology to do that. Thanks for sharing. And Christian, again, from a technology perspective, some things you're thinking about doing or some things that you've already started testing in the space?
So one of the things that we leverage a lot is our social media. So we know that social media is a really powerful tool, especially the research we've been seeing a lot is the Gen Z fan, and cultivating that fan now and growing along with them. And so we push a lot of our work across different social media platforms, specifically like Instagram and TikTok. And I feel old now when I'm
right.
working on some of these campaigns. I think to myself, wow, like I was around when this stuff first started in like 2004. But seeing how we're using that to be able to leverage amplifying stories, specifically those that really need to be told, regardless of the punishment from the platform, for whatever it is, the algorithm. But for us, it's really about publishing those stories, because with the clients that we do work with, be a voice, be a platform, champion that change, because you can. So with the platforms that our clients have, they can really use that as a force and driver of change.
Yeah, that's a really great point with social. I think it makes us all feel a bit old. The speed at which stories are shared now is incredible, right? And that's what the power of social media is. Nicole, from a tech perspective, what are you all
We use
working?
a lot of technology. Oh, mine is dead. It's dead. We use a lot of technology to connect the fan base to the work of the Dodgers Foundation. Ultimately, we are the #1 social media Major League Baseball team. And so in terms of number of total followers, thankfully, and in large part because of the Dodger fan base, we have an immense following, which means that we get to storytell. Not only storytell what we're doing, but also use it as a platform to tell the stories of so many other nonprofit organizations and communities throughout Los Angeles on a very consistent basis. I want to shout out Erin Edwards, who's our Director of Marketing and Communications, who leads our social media efforts. She's here today. I can't see with the light. Thank you, Erin. And so from a social media perspective, it's all about storytelling, but we have a number of other ways that we engage fans. You talked about QR codes in the beginning. We are actually National League West champs, and tomorrow is game 1 of the National League Division Series. Ooh. And we sell 50-50 raffle tickets at every single home game. And so a lucky winner goes home with half the pot, and we, the Dodgers Foundation, give the other half of the pot to local community organizations. And we actually use QR codes on the bottom of those raffle tickets to direct people to support the work that we're doing or the work of an organization. We're celebrating 10 years Reimagined. I shared some of our success. And so we've got a 10 years Reimagined campaign going on, and we're giving fans an opportunity to contribute to that. Throughout the season, we use a text to give platform as well, and so we give fans an opportunity to support other nonprofits that we might be highlighting in stadium via pre-games or on Dodger Vision because they're recipients of the raffle that night or they're recipients of an online auction that we might be hosting. We use a lot of platforms like the Ballpark app at Dodger Stadium, and so we actually feature our auctions on the Ballpark app. And then from a programming perspective, we use a number of platforms that help us to give families easy ways to register for our programs, but we also use platforms, and some of those are like league apps, but we also use applications that allow us to track what we are doing, like metrics and other technology. And those are actually ones that we can connect fans to as well, so it's easy for them to see how it's going, what impact we're having, and what we're doing. So lots of tech in how we're connecting fans to the work.
Yes, love that. And MLB BAM obviously was a leader across sports leagues in terms of technologies. I want to go a little bit to what Nathan alluded to, and that's the camaraderie, right, across teams, not only in the same city, but camaraderie across the league in terms of impact. And we see it from a nonprofit partner perspective with the NBA and the WNBA and the NFL, as I mentioned, the Women's Tennis Association and others. When we introduce an impact program from a league standpoint, we see how teams adopt those locally. So this one is really more for Nathan and Nicole, and obviously Christian, jump in on anything you can share from clients, but what is the power of that sharing, right, best practice perspective from the league down or maybe from your other fellow teams, both across league in the market or within your own league, and some of the things that you've maybe learned or shared across some of those teams? We'll start with you, Nathan.
Okay. I think the biggest takeaway, and again, from a sponsorship lens, is one, it has to have scale and it has to have reach, because if we do a press release and a check presentation, it feels good in the moment, but what's that impact that we're making as a club, and what's the impact that we're making with a partner? So I think from a league perspective, like Kick Childhood Cancer with the MLS, and how we can supplement that with LAFC and do everything that we did with Toyota and all the amazing experiences that we did with the kids battling cancer, that is amazing because it has a really big megaphone. But then secondly, and I just experienced this the other day of talking to a new brand, is we can vaguely express like, hey, this is what we can do in the community, this is what we're doing already, you can be affiliated with it. But they brought up a good point that our next generation, Gen Z, they want full transparency. And they want details on everything that we're gonna do and a full-on roadmap. So this brand challenged us to build a proposal that outlined what we're gonna do in the community and how it's gonna look and the impact that we expect to make. So I think those are two really good points, especially from a sponsorship perspective, but also just in general on the impact that we can make.
Yeah, I love that. And then Nicole, from your perspective across the league or just across other teams, are you sharing and learning from what others are doing?
Absolutely, both. I think I just ran into a few of my Rams colleagues that might still be in the room. They will tell you we are talking to each other from a local sports team perspective all the time. Sharing best practices, commiserating because there's some things that worked and some things that didn't work. How can we do it better? We fail at things. We talk to each other about the things that we fail and try to determine where there are successes. We also partner with each other on community initiatives. And so we've done that sometimes around holidays and others, depending upon whether we're going into the same community. There is an organization that was formed on the heels, during the pandemic, on the heels of George Floyd's murder, called the LA Alliance. And so the 12 LA sports teams are actually in a collaborative, consistent effort where we are managed by the Play Equity Fund of the LA84 Foundation. And ultimately, we are meeting on a very regular basis. We have a youth leadership program that we are all very much invested in. So we all put dollars into this alliance. And we also are very much invested as far as time and energy is concerned. We're hosting our youth leadership students at our various stadiums throughout Los Angeles in what are called career labs on a regular basis. We're partnering with the entities and the organizations that are serving youth within the program. And then we're actually all together working to uplift various let's call it social justice days throughout Los Angeles to make sure that we're celebrating things locally as the 12-team sports collaborative. And then within Major League Baseball, again, a lot of sharing. We have a monthly call, and so there's community and foundations that are getting on, led by MLB Community Relations team back in New York. We also are getting together in Vegas in November for our club meetings, hopefully after the World Series. And so there's a lot of best practices in learning, but I mean, we're all talking to each other all the time because we're not in the same markets and we're not competing with each other. So we don't see any problem with reinventing the wheel per market and pretty much doing things that have worked in other spaces. A really big deal for the Dodgers Foundation is we want our work to be replicable, whether that's at LAFC or that's across the country at the Red Sox Foundation.
Love that, and really underscores the power of partnership and also the power of impact. We're all in this together to make an impact, and so that's really a shared, call to action for all of us in this space. Christian, anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, so we also collaborate cross-regionally between the teams in Florida. We talk a lot to Atlanta, talk a lot to Golden State, and to Nathan's point, scalability is really important, and what we hear a lot is longevity.
Yes.
Is this a one-time thing?
Yes, thank you
or
for
is this
making that
something
point.
that's going to reap benefits for years to come? We're starting to see a lot of requests and really that becoming the standardization part of it.
So last thing, and I don't know if we have enough time, but I did want to open it up to the audience really quickly, but I want to get into, obviously, the voices that we all leverage and impact, and that's the voices of our athletes and our players. From an American Cancer Society perspective, we manage a player ambassador program that has had over 100 NFL players and players from other sports support us across the league and across the years, and we see the difference it makes when fans can hear from the players and how much they care about these causes. If you can share, again, from your perspective, the importance of player engagement in your impact initiatives and some of the difference you've seen that make. We'll start with you, Nicole.
I'll just say it's priceless. We start telling our players at spring training in February that ultimately we need them out in the community. We talk to them about their interests. We try to find shared interests. They are some of the most generous individuals, given that they are playing 81 home games and another 81 games somewhere else. And so ultimately, for the time that they give us, it's tremendous. And it's not just come out to these community events with us and show up, because communities do want to see you and they want you to be a part of it, but we give them other ways to participate as well. So whether they're involved in doing PSAs for us or providing their social media platforms to pitch what we're doing and what other organizations are doing, whether they come on board to support organizations, they sign a ton of autographed memorabilia for us that we use for fundraising purposes, and I could go on, but ultimately their support is priceless. And we've just had some really amazing gems of leaders in our clubhouse, like a Clayton Kershaw or a Mookie Betts, that have paved the way for some of the younger guys to really get on board.
Love that. And Christian, I know you do a lot with athletes as well.
Yeah, I mean, priceless is definitely the way to say it, because, I mean, barring any restrictions from the NBA, they just amplify all the work that we do, but also the other way around. We champion what they champion, and we have, and it's not just current players, but alumni. We have folks like Alonzo Mourning, with and OG Udonis Haslem, like just championing their own causes that we also get behind, because it's for us at the end of the day, it's about the community. It's not just about what happens on the basketball court, it's about what happens outside, because that is where the real impact happens.
Yeah, really a great example of the exchange too, right? And I think the NBA is a great example of that, of championing some of the causes that are led by their players and taking that up as well. And then Nathan, from an MLS perspective.
Yeah, I would agree with everything, that it is priceless, and then being able to leverage the why of like maybe that player's interest as well, and combining that with what we're doing in the community. And I think LAFC and a lot of teams in LA leverage ownership as well. Like we have notable celebrities like a Will Ferrell that will go with Flex Power Tools, our front of kit partner, to build a house for Habitat for Humanity. And we all know and love Will Ferrell and Magic Johnson, Omar Garcia-Parra, Mia Hamm, like all the celebrity owners too, along with the players. And it just shows that, we're in it together and we want to make a difference. And it's not just a business, it's also an important voice in the community.
Yeah, and I think that's a really nice point to close on as well, because we are seeing so many more athletes get engaged on the ownership side of sports, former athletes, even current athletes now, investing in sports teams, and to be able to use and amplify those voices is really priceless as well. Do we have a bit to open it up for questions? I don't know if someone could let me know, but maybe we'll take one. I see one here in the audience. Would love to hear your questions. Thank you so much. And while that's happening, I do want to thank the production team. I shared that video from the PSA that you saw pretty late, so I want to shout out to the production team for making that happen for us. All right, we have one question.
Hi, thank you so much for this discussion. My question is, so I'm a UCLA alum, and I spent a lot of time, my club on campus was Colleges Against Cancer via the American Cancer Society.
Wonderful.
And it was a great organization. And so I guess initially the question was for Sherry, but I guess for anybody, as I still care a lot about this organization here at our school. Do you work at all with directly with campus clubs in the way that perhaps in other professional organizations can, community relations can play into working with college campuses? And maybe Sherry, does your job at all affect these types of organizations here at UCLA?
Yeah, such a great question. Thank you for mentioning that. So we have a program at the American Cancer Society called ACS on Campus, and we do partner with colleges across the country. And one of the sports connections to that is our Coaches versus Cancer program, which is a 25-plus year partnership with NCAA basketball coaches that are incredibly supportive of the cause. So yes, there's a couple of different ways that we work with universities across the board through that on-campus program, really empowering them to raise awareness and help us in the fight against cancer through fundraising and impact programs. And absolutely love every single university we work with. So look forward to engaging more in the work that you're doing here at UCLA and across the country. So thank you for that. Anyone else want to take on that question from a collegiate engagement perspective? Anything?
Just that we have a college and career accelerator that I mentioned earlier, where we're basically focused on preparing young people for college and getting them through college. We bring middle school and high school students to college campuses throughout Los Angeles, and UCLA happens to be one of them. We also, obviously, given the Jackie Robinson relationship, have a significant partnership with UCLA, where we're also funding students who are here as Jackie Robinson Foundation, Los Angeles Dodgers Foundation scholars. So they're receiving 4-year scholarships to attend UCLA.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you for that, because I think we closed with athletes, and NIL, right, has not only changed the game from a perspective of athletes able to make, money from marketing, but it's also encouraged more to be impactful at such a young age. And so we've started bringing on college athletes as ambassadors as well, and had the opportunity to work with more college athletes as a result of that. Any other questions? Do we have time for one more from the audience? Yes. Back here, can we get a microphone? Thank you so much.
Hello?
Yes.
Okay. Kudos, everybody. I mean, selling out every game, I think is an amazing feat, so kudos. But that creates another situation, is what happened to all of us, and what are you doing with the other 90% that stay out so that can be engaged, can be into fandom? How are you using technology in order to really enhance that experience for those of us that don't get to watch the game live?
Nicole? Or
I will just say that in terms of connecting our work to the community, For those of you who are maybe watching from home, maybe listening to the radio, we integrate a lot of our messaging in terms of what we're doing and how fans can be involved outside of the stadium. So for me, in-stadium fundraising is one thing, but ultimately our mission is to meet the community where they're at. The majority of our work actually does not happen at Dodger Stadium, and so people see us quite visibly throughout the city of Los Angeles, whether that's at schools, at recreation centers, in so many different neighborhoods, in so many different ways throughout the year. And so it is about going out and connecting to the fan. The game is one mechanism, frankly, for fundraising and also for even programming and highlighting some of what happens outside of the stadium, but the majority of our work is happening in communities throughout Los Angeles.
Thank you. And Nathan, did you want to speak to that?
Sure. To your point, there is a threshold. You know, our stadium only seats 22,000, 17 regular season games, playoffs after that. But like Nicole alluded to, a lot of our work does happen outside of match days. So, for example, we have LAFC SoCal Youth, which is a network of 4,000 to 6,000 young soccer players that get to participate with LAFC academy coaches and so forth. And we want to make the sport more accessible across Southern California. So really the work has to be done by making it easier to say yes, be affiliated with LAFC because we want to make a difference together. And even things like Street by Street with the Rip Mitley, where we have futsal clinics in the community where our alumni and players will attend. I mean, there's a long list of things that we do with LAFC Foundation because we know that the game is only a small component of what we do in LA.
I think that's a great way to close it out. Again, I just want to thank everyone here because the work we're doing to that point of going out into the community is exactly how we're extending that experience to other fans. And so I think that's a great way to close it out. Thank you so much to everyone on the panel. And thank you.